Welcome to Bad Guy Compendium, the ultimate podcast for fans of comic books, movies, and the unforgettable villains that make them unforgettable. I'm your host, Finley Strong. The Penguin, one of Batman's most enduring and unique adversaries, is a complex villain who has been part of the Batman mythos since his debut in Detective Comics 58 in 1941. Created by writer Bill Finger and artist Bob Kane, the Penguin, whose real name is Oswald Chesterfield Cobblepot, is an intelligent, cunning, and ruthless crime lord whose appearance and persona sharply contrast with Batman's more traditional rogues gallery of supervillains. Unlike many of Batman's enemies who rely on physical strength, the Penguin uses his wealth, influence, and intellect to carry out his criminal enterprises. Is known for his distinctive tuxedo and top hat, his love of birds, and his signature weaponized umbrellas, which can function as everything from guns to swords and even helicopters. Although physically unimposing, his shrewdness and ability to navigate Gotham's criminal underworld make him a formidable foe for Batman. The Penguin has a multifaceted personality. At times, he operates as a high society criminal mastermind, and at others, he's portrayed as a tragic outcast, rejected by society for his deformities and driven to a life of crime by his desire for revenge and respect. His criminal schemes often revolve around themes of power, control, and his need to be accepted by Gotham's elite, despite his grotesque appearance and devious methods. Over the years, the Penguin has undergone several transformations across comics, television, films, and video games, each iteration contributing to his evolving legacy as one of Batman's greatest foes. The character's long-lasting appeal lies in his blend of sophistication and menace, making him a quintessential Batman villain who embodies both Gotham's crime-ridden streets and its corrupt high society. The origins and early history of the Penguin. The Penguin's comic book debut, Detective Comics 58, 1941. Oswald Cobblepot first appeared in Detective Comics 58 in December 1941, marking his introduction into the Batman mythos. Created by Bill Finger and Bob Kane, the Penguin was designed as a sharp departure from the brutish and grotesque villains that populated Batman's early rogues gallery, such as the Joker or Two-Face. Instead, the Penguin was intended to be a cerebral villain, relying on his wits and wealth to commit his crimes. In his debut, the Penguin was portrayed as a gentleman thief with a penchant for high-class crime. His appearance short, round, and bird-like, coupled with his signature monocle, top hat, and tuxedo, gave him the look of a distinguished aristocrat, but his criminal ambitions were anything but refined. The Penguin's first appearance involved him stealing valuable art pieces using his trademark weaponized umbrella, and he quickly established himself as a sophisticated criminal mastermind. What set the Penguin apart in his early appearances was his methodical approach to crime. While other villains might use brute force or outlandish schemes, the Penguin operated with a level of elegance and planning. This made him a unique adversary for Batman, who often relied on his own intellect and detective skills to defeat him. From the outset, the Penguin was a character who thrived in Gotham's shadowy underworld, pulling the strings behind major heists and controlling criminal enterprises with finesse. Early development of the character. In the early years of his existence, the Penguin was largely portrayed as a recurring foe for Batman, often engaging in elaborate heists and robberies that played off his bird-themed persona. His early comic book adventures often had a whimsical, almost comedic tone, as he relied on an assortment of bird-themed gadgets and trick umbrellas to carry out his crimes. These stories highlighted his cunning and his ability to manipulate Gotham's elite while staying one step ahead of the law. Despite his somewhat comical appearance, the Penguin was also portrayed as a ruthless criminal. His backstory during this period was not as deeply explored as it would later become, but he was consistently depicted as an ambitious and calculating villain, eager to make a name for himself in Gotham's criminal underworld. His bird motif was an essential part of his identity, with many of his schemes revolving around avian themes, including stealing rare birds or operating out of bird-themed lairs. One of the key aspects of the Penguin's character during this time was his desire for social acceptance. He wanted to be seen as a gentleman and a member of Gotham's high society, even as his criminal actions alienated him from legitimate power and influence. This tension between his outward appearance as a sophisticated man of culture and his inner ruthlessness would remain a defining characteristic of the Penguin throughout his history. The Penguin's evolution, tragic figure, and crime boss. As the decades passed, the Penguin's character underwent significant development, evolving from a simple bird-themed thief into a more complex and multifaceted villain. His motivations, backstory, and methods became more intricate, reflecting the changing tone of Batman comics and the increasing emphasis on psychological depth in comic book characters. The Penguin's backstory, a life of rejection and ambition. In the 1980s, Batman comics began to delve deeper into the psychological motivations of his characters, and the Penguin was no exception. Writers began to explore the tragic elements of Oswald Cobblepot's life, focusing on his childhood and the factors that led him to a life of crime. Born into a wealthy Gotham family, young Oswald Cobblepot was ridiculed and ostracized because of his short stature, bird-like appearance, and waddling gait. His father's early death and his mother's overprotective nature further isolated him from his peers. This constant rejection and bullying made Oswald bitter and resentful, and he vowed to one day earn the respect and power that had been denied to him. His deformities, combined with his deep intelligence and ambition, made him an outcast, and he eventually turned to crime as a way to gain the wealth and status he craved. The Penguin's tragic backstory added a layer of complexity to his character, portraying him not merely as a villain motivated by greed, but as a man driven by a deep sense of injustice. His need for power and recognition stemmed from a lifetime of rejection, and his criminal enterprises became a way to assert his dominance over a world that had scorned him. This backstory helped elevate the Penguin from a gimmicky villain to a more fully realized character whose motivations were rooted in the desire for respect and revenge. The Penguin as a crime lord. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, the Penguin underwent another transformation, becoming less of a flamboyant thief and more of a calculating crime lord. This shift reflected the changing tone of Batman comics, which had grown darker and more grounded under the influence of writers like Frank Miller and Alan Moore. As Gotham City's underworld became more organized and sophisticated, so too did the Penguin's criminal operations. By this point, the Penguin had established himself as a major figure in Gotham's criminal underworld, running an empire built on smuggling, extortion, and illegal gambling. He operated from his nightclub, the Iceberg Lounge, which served as both a legitimate business and a front for his criminal activities. The Iceberg Lounge became a key location in Batman's world, a place where Gotham's elite rubbed shoulders with its underworld, and the Penguin positioned himself as a central figure in both worlds. This version of the Penguin was more calculating and less prone to the flamboyant theatrics of his early years. He preferred to stay behind the scenes, manipulating events from the shadows rather than engaging in direct confrontations with Batman. His goal was no longer just to steal wealth, but to accumulate power and influence within Gotham. He was portrayed as a cold, ruthless figure who would stop at nothing to achieve his goals, even if it meant betraying allies or orchestrating brutal murders. Batman, the animated series, and a new Penguin. The 1990s saw the Penguin gain a new level of prominence thanks to Batman the Animated Series, which ran from 1992 to 1995. Voiced by Paul Williams, the Penguin in this series was heavily inspired by the character's portrayal in Tim Burton's Batman Returns 1992, but the show took a more refined approach, blending elements of his aristocratic persona with his grotesque, bird-like appearance. In Batman the Animated Series, the Penguin is depicted as a high society criminal who uses his wealth and influence to orchestrate elaborate heists and criminal schemes. He runs the Iceberg Lounge as a front for his operations, positioning himself as a legitimate businessman while secretly engaging in illegal activities. The show also explored the Penguin's desire for acceptance in Gotham's elite circles, portraying him as a tragic figure who is constantly trying to rise above his status as an outcast. The success of Batman the Animated Series helped cement the Penguin's status as one of Batman's most enduring villains. The show's blend of sophistication and tragedy in its portrayal of Oswald Cobblepot resonated with audiences, and the character's design combining elements of the classic Penguin look with a more grotesque appearance became one of the defining versions of the character. The Penguin in major storylines. Throughout his long history in the comics, the Penguin has been involved in numerous major storylines that have defined both his character and his role within Gotham City. These storylines have showcased his intelligence, ruthlessness, and adaptability as a villain, while also exploring his complex relationship with Batman and Gotham's criminal underworld. Batman: The Long Halloween 1996 to 1997. One of the most significant stories involving the Penguin is Batman: The Long Halloween, a limited series written by Jeff Loeb and illustrated by Tim Sale. Set early in Batman's career, the story follows the Dark Knight as he investigates a series of murders committed by a mysterious killer known as Holiday, who strikes on holidays throughout the year. While the Penguin is not the central villain of the story, he plays an important role as one of the many crime lords caught up in Gotham's escalating gang war between the Falcone and Maroni crime families. The Penguin, along with other members of Batman's rogues gallery, takes advantage of the chaos to further his own criminal enterprises. The Long Halloween is notable for its portrayal of the Penguin as a key player in Gotham's underworld. Unlike some of the other villains in the story who are more focused on personal vendettas, the Penguin is depicted as a cold and calculating figure, always looking for ways to expand his empire and maintain his power. His role in the story highlights his position as a central figure in Gotham's criminal ecosystem, and his ability to adapt to changing circumstances makes him a formidable adversary for Batman. No Man's Land, 1999. The No Man's Land storyline, which ran through various Batman titles in 1999, is another key storyline that features the Penguin in a prominent role. The story is set in the aftermath of a massive earthquake that devastates Gotham City, leading the US government to declare the city a no man's land and cut it off from the rest of the country. In the chaos that follows, Gotham is divided into territories controlled by various factions, with Batman and his allies struggling to restore order. In this dystopian version of Gotham, the Penguin thrives, using his wealth and connections to become one of the city's most powerful crime lords. He controls a significant portion of the city's resources, including food and weapons, and operates a black market operation out of the ruins of the Iceberg Lounge. His ability to navigate the lawless environment of No Man's Land demonstrates his resourcefulness and adaptability as he continues to expand his criminal empire even in the face of disaster. The No Man's Land storyline is significant because it highlights the Penguin's role as a survivor and opportunist. While other villains in Gotham resort to brute force or madness in the wake of the earthquake, the Penguin uses his intelligence and connections to consolidate power. His actions in this story reinforce his status as a master manipulator who is always looking for ways to stay on top, no matter the circumstances. Gotham Underground 2007 to 2008. The Gotham Underground miniseries, which ran from 2007 to 2008, is another important storyline that focuses on the Penguin's role within Gotham's criminal underworld. The series, written by Frank Thierry and illustrated by Jay Calafiore, follows the Penguin as he navigates the power struggles between various factions in Gotham, including the arrival of a new criminal organization known as the Suicide Squad. In this story, the Penguin finds himself caught between rival crime bosses, government agents, and Batman himself as he tries to maintain his grip on Gotham's underworld. The series explores the Penguin's cunning and ruthlessness as he manipulates alliances and betrays former partners in his quest for power. The story also delves into the Penguin's ambition, as he attempts to expand his influence beyond Gotham and establish himself as a major player in the wider criminal world. Gotham Underground is notable for its portrayal of the Penguin as a crime lord who is willing to do whatever it takes to survive and thrive. The series showcases his intelligence and ability to adapt to changing circumstances, as well as his willingness to play both sides of the law in order to achieve his goals. The Penguin, Pain and Prejudice 2011. In 2011, the Penguin received his own limited series, The Penguin, Pain and Prejudice, written by Greg Hurwitz and illustrated by Simon Kudransky. This 5-issue miniseries delves deep into the Penguin's psyche, exploring his traumatic childhood, his rise to power, and his complex relationship with his mother. Pain and Prejudice offers a more intimate and psychological portrayal of Oswald Cobblepot, revealing the deep emotional scars that drive his actions. The series explores his feelings of inadequacy and rejection stemming from his deformities and his desire to be loved and respected. His relationship with his mother is a central focus of the story as he seeks her approval, even as he engages in increasingly violent and cruel acts. The series is also notable for its portrayal of the Penguin's brutality. While he presents himself as a sophisticated and cultured figure, Pain and Prejudice reveals the depths of his cruelty as he orchestrates horrific acts of violence against those who cross him. The story paints a picture of a man who is both deeply wounded and incredibly dangerous, a villain who hides his viciousness behind a veneer of elegance. Forever Evil 2013 to 2014. The Forever Evil crossover event, which ran from 2013 to 2014, is another major storyline that features the Penguin in a significant role. The story follows the rise of the Crime Syndicate, an evil version of the Justice League from an alternate universe, as they take over the world and attempt to eliminate Earth's heroes. In the chaos that follows the Crime Syndicate's takeover, Gotham City is left without Batman, and the Penguin sees an opportunity to expand his power. He takes control of the city's criminal underworld, using his influence and resources to maintain order in Gotham, while also consolidating his own power. Forever Evil is notable for showing the Penguin's pragmatism and adaptability. While other villains may have sought to capitalize on the chaos for personal gain, the Penguin takes a more calculated approach, using the situation to strengthen his position within Gotham. His actions in this story demonstrate his ability to navigate complex power dynamics and his willingness to work with others when it serves his interests. The Penguin in film and television. The Penguin has been a central figure in many adaptations of Batman across film and television, with each portrayal offering a different take on the character. From the campy, comedic version of the 1960s to the dark, tragic interpretation of Tim Burton's Batman Returns, the Penguin's cinematic legacy is as diverse as the character himself. The Penguin in the 1960s Batman TV series. One of the earliest and most iconic portrayals of the Penguin came in the 1960s Batman television series, where the character was played by actor Burgess Meredith. The Batman TV show, which aired from 1966 to 1968, was known for its campy, comedic tone, and Meredith's portrayal of the Penguin fit perfectly with the show's lighthearted approach. Meredith's Penguin was a scheming, eccentric villain with a distinctive, high-pitched laugh and a penchant for trick umbrellas. While this version of the Penguin retained some of the character's intelligence and ambition, he was portrayed more as a comedic foil for Batman and Robin, often engaging in outlandish schemes and colorful heists. Despite the campy nature of the show, Meredith's portrayal of the Penguin became one of the most beloved versions of the character. His performance was a key part of the show's success, and the character's signature laugh and catchphrases became ingrained in popular culture. Batman Returns 1992, a dark, tragic Penguin. Tim Burton's Batman Returns 1992 offered a radically different take on the Penguin, portraying him as a tragic and grotesque figure with a much darker backstory. In the film, the Penguin is played by Danny DeVito, who delivers a performance that is both disturbing and sympathetic. In Batman Returns, the Penguin is depicted as a deformed, monstrous figure who was abandoned by his wealthy parents as a baby and left to grow up in the sewers of Gotham City. He is raised by penguins and a group of circus performers, and his life of isolation and rejection fuels his desire for revenge against Gotham's elite. The film portrays him as a tragic villain, driven by a need for acceptance and revenge, while also reveling in his grotesque appearance and sadistic tendencies. DeVito's Penguin is a far cry from the more refined and aristocratic versions of the character seen in the comics or the 1960s TV show. Instead, he is portrayed as a physically repulsive figure with black bile dripping from his mouth and a violent, animalistic nature. Burton's version of the Penguin is both horrifying and pitiable, a man who has been cast aside by society and seeks to reclaim his place by any means necessary. While Batman Returns received mixed reviews, DeVito's performance as the Penguin has been widely praised for its complexity and its unique take on the character. The film's portrayal of the Penguin as a tragic figure has influenced subsequent interpretations of the character, emphasizing the themes of rejection and revenge that have become central to his identity. Gotham 2014 to 2019, The Rise of Oswald Cobblepot. In the 2014 television series Gotham, the Penguin plays a central role in the show's exploration of Gotham City's criminal underworld and the origins of Batman's villains. Played by Robin Lord Taylor, the Penguin is one of the show's breakout characters, and his transformation from a low-level thug to a powerful crime lord is one of the central storylines of the series. In Gotham, Oswald Cobblepot is portrayed as a manipulative and ambitious figure, starting out as the lackey of a powerful crime boss before gradually rising to become one of Gotham's most feared and respected crime lords. Taylor's performance emphasizes the Penguin's intelligence, ruthlessness, and ability to manipulate others to achieve his goals. At the same time, the show delves into the psychological complexity of the character, exploring his insecurities, his desire for power, and his need for approval. One of the key aspects of Gotham's portrayal of the Penguin is his relationship with his mother, Gertrude, who plays a significant role in shaping his ambitions and motivations. The show also explores the Penguin's complex relationships with other characters, including his rivalry with Edward Nygma, the Riddler, and his complicated relationship with Jim Gordon. Robin Lord Taylor's portrayal of the Penguin in Gotham has been widely praised for its depth and complexity. The show's focus on Oswald Cobblepot's rise to power provides a detailed exploration of the character's origins and motivations, offering a fresh take on one of Batman's most iconic villains, the Penguin, in upcoming projects. As of 2024, the Penguin remains a central figure in Batman-related media, with upcoming projects set to explore his character further. One of the most highly anticipated projects is the Penguin spin-off series for HBO Max, which will focus on the character's rise to power in Gotham City. The series will be set in the same universe as Matt Reeves' The Batman 2022, in which the Penguin was portrayed by Colin Farrell. In The Batman, Farrell's Penguin is depicted as a mid-level crime boss working under Gotham's reigning crime lord, Carmine Falcone. The character's distinctive appearance, complete with prosthetic makeup that rendered Farrell nearly unrecognizable, and Farrell's gritty performance were highlights of the film. The upcoming HBO Max series is expected to delve deeper into the Penguin's rise to power, exploring his ambitions and his role in Gotham's criminal underworld. Conclusion. The Penguin is one of Batman's most enduring and versatile villains, with a legacy that spans over 8 decades of comic books, television shows, and films. From his early days as a flamboyant, bird-themed thief to his evolution into a complex crime lord and tragic figure, Oswald Cobblepot has remained a central figure in Gotham City's criminal underworld. The Penguin's intelligence, ruthlessness, and desire for power have made him a formidable adversary for Batman, and his complex backstory and motivations have given him a depth that few villains can match. Whether portrayed as a grotesque outcast seeking revenge or a sophisticated mastermind pulling the strings behind the scenes, the Penguin remains one of the most compelling characters in the Batman mythos. Throughout his many appearances in comics and adaptations, the Penguin has continued to evolve, reflecting the changing tone of Batman stories while remaining true to his core characteristics. His ability to navigate Gotham's criminal landscape, his tragic origins, and his enduring rivalry with Batman ensure that the Penguin will remain a key figure in Gotham's history for years to come. Subscribe to Bad Guy Compendium anywhere you get your podcast or at roguemedianetwork.com and get ready to delve into the minds of the most iconic villains in pop culture history. I've been your host, Finley Strong, and remember, evil never sleeps, but bad guys are forever.